One of the last video blogs that I did was on the struggle for the unfaithful spouse in dealing with a lack of self-acceptance. I got some wonderful feedback, some great comments, and it seemed to strike a nerve with many of you. Today, though, I want to talk about the next kind of link in the chain for the unfaithful spouse, which is self-rejection. I will warn you, today is going to be a two-parter. There's a lot that we have to discuss, and I don't want to try and put it all in one long video blog where you kind of check out. I check out because I forget what I say. I want to make this into a two-part to really focus on kind of the manifestations of self-hatred when you're dealing with infidelity, and then part two will focus on how do you forgive yourself and how do you create new patterns of healing. Here's kind of how the spiral works. We as an unfaithful have an affair, an addiction, we act out, and it becomes public. Our consequences start to pour in, and then all of a sudden, sobriety kicks in. We start to come to grips with what, in fact, we have done to our spouse, to our family, the consequences that we're starting to encounter, and all of a sudden, typically what was so electric and so incredible and so fulfilling and was so, passionate now starts to fade in light of what our choices have cost us. As we now kind of take this journey, we were acting out of an attempt to meet the need for self-acceptance. In a lot of ways, that's why we cheat. We're looking for self-acceptance. But what happens is, what seems so electric and so satisfying and so maybe perfect to meet these needs of self-acceptance, when it becomes exposed, we start to encounter and suffer the consequences of our actions. We're having to stare at our spouse or our partner every day who is completely shell-shocked at our choices. Maybe our family finds out, and all of a sudden, all these consequences start to roll in, and what happens is what was so invigorating, now we start to see it in a different light, right? It's eventual. For some people, it's a few weeks. For some people, it's a few months. And for some people, it might even be a few years. Now, what happens is we act out, consequences roll in, and for people like me who are wounded, who are acting out of an attempt to fill the need of self-acceptance, we start to have the smoke clear, the fog rolls out, and now we see what we've done and how we've hurt our spouse and hurt our family, and we're having to stare into the eyes of our betrayed spouse every day, and we're processing the pain that we have created, and now we spiral into self-hatred. We hate what we've done. We hate ourselves for doing what we've done. We hate ourselves that we are the way that we are. We hate that we have violated our marriage. We hate that we have transgressed our marriage covenant, that we have gone outside the marriage and we have jeopardized what we are now awakening to should be the most important relationship in our life, which is our spouse. If you come from faith, then obviously your relationship posture might be different as your relationship with God and then your relationship with your spouse. If you don't come from faith, hopefully the most important relationship in your life besides your relationship with yourself, if you want to take it that way, is your spouse. And we come to grips with just how much we have devastated our spouse. The struggle is, if you're a betrayed spouse, you may be encountering an intense amount of anger and rage and lashing out at you, the betrayed spouse. Like, why is the unfaithful spouse so angry when they're the one that's cheated? Well, here's a few reasons. One is we hate ourselves. And so we're so angry at ourselves, we would fight ourselves if we could find ourselves in a bar. We would stab ourselves if we didn't have to go spend money on ourselves to give ourselves stitches. We become suicidal sometimes. Sometimes it's just kind of a cry for help and attention and self-absorption, but sometimes in genuine cases, I will tell you in my own, I really early on didn't see a lot of reason to live except for my kids. But we hate ourselves, and we begin to act out of our anger at ourselves, and we take it out on you, the betrayed spouse. So If you are a betrayed spouse and you're encountering a ton of anger or a lot of rage or lashing out, I would venture to say that there's probably a significant amount of truth in the fact that your unfaithful spouse or partner probably hates themselves, hates what they've done, hates that they are the way that they are, and they're taking it out on you because they don't know how to heal. I can hear some of you say, well, Samuel, but if they so hate themselves, why do they keep acting out? For some people, this isn't a just broad generalization, but for some of us, we act out, we hate what we've done, we try and stop, we try and prevent ourselves from acting out again, and maybe we get clean or we get sober or we do some recovery work, and then we act out again. And eventually we hit this point where we say, I'm such an idiot. Why do I even fight it? I'm not going to be able to stop it. I hate what I'm doing, and we hate ourselves, we condemn ourselves, and we get caught in a spiral of shame. And remember, shame makes everything about ourselves and not about our spouse, our partner, or the victim of our choices. Shame continues to make us focus on us and our needs and our wounds and our struggle and our unmet needs rather than focusing on our betrayed spouse. Now, it gets really tricky because if you're an unfaithful spouse and you're trying to heal, how do you heal from self-hatred? How do you do recovery work on you without allowing everything to be focused on you? I mean, how do you do your recovery work, try and forgive yourself and heal yourself and do what you need to do while also helping your spouse heal, but not turning every conversation into a wallowing point of self-absorption and self-pity and shame? Well, I can't give you all the answers in one video blog, but today's answer is self-love. If you read the Bible, Jesus never commanded anybody to hate themselves. If you don't come from faith, there's really no benefit to hating yourself because it doesn't cause the effect that you would hope, which is, I'm going to make myself better. I'm going to do all the work that I need to do. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to get better. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it leads us down a road of, I'm never going to be any different. Why should I change? I'm worthless. I'm no good for anybody or anything. I might as well keep doing what I'm doing because I don't have the power to change and I'm not going to change. And I just want to tell you, that's the strategy, that's the trick. Whether it be that you come from faith and you call it the enemy, or whether it be that you don't come from faith and you just call it the sick and twisted strategy of life to tear you down, hating yourself is not going to bring the answer. What's going to bring the answer is forgiving yourself. Because forgiving yourself is what sets you free to eventually start to love yourself and to forgive yourself and to be able to have a fresh start to, if your spouse will let you, help your spouse heal. Until we can understand how to love ourselves and how to forgive ourselves, we as unfaithful spouses continue to be stuck in the spiral that tears us down, increases the chance of relapse, and completely undermines any recovery efforts in our life.